How do we know Victor?
Victor, I'm not sure, Jay, how you know him. Victor is definitely going to come on my pod soon. Jay, you still need to come on my pod, and probably vice versa. Victor has African NFTs, and I see him doing a lot of stuff with augmented reality with NFTs, which look super cool. And I don't know if we can share a screen here or if that would really lag it out, but he has these really cool augmented reality things.
What's the link? I'll bring it up.
I'd have to, Victor, can you drop a link in the chat?
Yeah, Victor, if you're still watching, bro, drop a link and we'll screen share kind of what you're up to with augmented reality, because we don't have to get off on the tangent. We were going to talk today about something. NFT, NYC, the CEO of Celsius is on the run now, like some crazy stuff. But I don't mind checking out NFT stuff because Rebels by Night dropped. And if we ever want to derail into why I like that NFT project from a crypto identity NFT, it's huge because Vitalik talked about this in terms of soul NFTs. Have you seen these? Soul ties, soul bond?
Soulbound, yeah.
Soulbound, there you go. Yeah. Very interesting concept of you're going to have your lifelong NFT, kind of like your social security card. Yeah. Interesting. So we don't have to derail into that, but I can screen share, Jarrett, if we ever have that link.
Yeah, I don't know if so also I am, if you hear any weird sounds, which you may hear, I am in an Airbnb in Colombia. And there is a man who came over named Carlos, and he's doing some work on the shower heater because in Bogota, it's about 8,000 meters up. It's really high. And if you don't have hot water and you try to shower at night, it can be more of a spiritual experience, if you will. So he's here, and I may have to let him in and out and go up and down. Sure. So that's if you hear any noise. I don't really think we have an agenda for the first one. Maybe what we could do is just briefly share what we each think this is going to be, because I'm sure it's kind of all different, and then go from there. Jay, do you want to talk about your hopes for Victor?
I got Victor here. Go ahead with Jay's, and I'll bring this up on another screen, but go ahead, Jay.
Perfect.
Okay. On the spot, I guess. Well, I mean, maybe we can talk about like where this all comes from and something about the name, and then I can get you guys to jump in on that. So I know, so Grant, you and Jarrett both knew each other from before. You guys have been talking back and forth, and then Jarrett introduced me to you, and so I think there were sort of these separate conversations happening between us about what's happening in the crypto space and where we think the industry is going.
Yes,
it's been some pretty cool conversations. We've all talked at different times and had had a lot of fun talking about those conversations. And it just sort of made sense that we hit the record button on those conversations,
which is literally what we did.
Yeah. We're all podcasters. We regularly record our thoughts and share our thoughts with the world. So it makes sense that we come together. And I think in terms of the not crypto bros, you guys can tell me if I'm right or wrong with this one. But I think that the idea was to sort of go against the grain in terms of what you generally see coming out of these types of crypto conversations. Like, we all have the diversity of thought and background, and we're not all sort of like matching to the same beat. We bring different perspectives, and I think we're all open to having those types of different conversations, which is unlike what you generally see when you sort of go into a Twitter space where everyone sort of holds the same opinion and they're all sort of holding the same bucket of water, and hyping each other up and shilling each other's projects. It's not really like that with us. Yeah. What do you think? Am I right on that? Or
yeah, go ahead, Jared. I mean, I'm still tootling with this, but yeah, go ahead, Jared.
Yeah, I think I love the idea of holding the same water, because sometimes I do feel like I've been on Twitter Spaces, and it's just like a buddy of mine who is one of the smartest people I've ever met, Drew Williams. I don't think you're going to hear this because I don't know if you're into crypto and NFTs. He's a brilliant, brilliant guy, and I actually met him when I was in the Peace Corps here in Colombia, as it were. And one of the things Drew said that always stuck with me was like, if you were in a meeting, I don't care what it's about, he's a soccer coach. So maybe you're in a post-game meeting, if you're in a board meeting, if you're in your nonprofit meeting, whatever it is, if you're not going to add something new to what's been said, please don't piggyback, because we don't need everyone to just co-sign.
No.
And I feel like a lot of times with Twitter Spaces, it's a lot of co-signing. And so I'm hoping what we do, the three of us, we challenge one another. We bring on people who are going to be challenge us, and we just talk about things that maybe aren't being talked about in more of the mainstream things that you see on Instagram Reels, all over Twitter, or even here on LinkedIn. I know we're on LinkedIn and maybe in a couple of other places, but it's like there's so much more diversity to thought that I think actually happens. And a lot of times it happens off mic. But what we're trying to do is put it on mic. And I think what we wanted to do is take from, I believe, the podcast is called Not Financial Advice. We kind of wanted to go with that. Oh God, there's water everywhere. We kind of wanted to go with that. It's not my problem, I guess.
Yeah.
We kind of wanted to go with that by saying, if you see, these three male faces, we're not crypto bros, because that may be your first thing. Oh, look at these crypto bros. So we're kind of making like a satire of it, and also definitely hoping to bring on people from different walks of life. I think normal finance, for me growing up as a kid, I never wanted to be a part of it because it was white and it was more upper class. And for me, I didn't see myself in that space. I literally didn't see my reflection. And so I'm really excited, I think, here, and it's something I've been actually trying to do with More Than Blockchain, but to bring on people from different backgrounds to really have a conversation. Because if crypto at its most base thing, where it started as Bitcoin, and Bitcoin was supposed to be money, anyone in the world can get into Bitcoin. And that's why me personally, I like the Bitcoin maxi community, or anyone talking about Bitcoin, because you're going to run into people that may be the only thing that you actually have in common. And this happens to me a lot. I'm like, we don't agree with anything else, but we do agree that this thing is, one of the best inventions we probably have since the internet was founded. So anyway, Grant, I'm going to pass you the rock. Yeah,
pass me the rock and maybe plug a hole in the dike in your in your bathroom over there.
I don't know if you can hear it.
So Jay, I think Jarrett and I actually he reached out to me on his pod. He was going on his podcast and just said, "Hey, come on, I saw, I don't know, a YouTube or something of me talking about it," and then I had him on the show. And to Jarrett's point just now about differing views, our show, my episode that he was on, was real estate versus Bitcoin. If you had 100K, would you invest in real estate versus Bitcoin? And we went on for like ever. It was a long show, and I kept it all because I liked the vibe, I liked the energy, but to Jarrett's point, I really liked the fact that I know he's a Bitcoin maxi. I know that I am a real estate maxi, and like my show, State of the Spark, right here, I'm all about freedom and not Americanism. Forgive me, but financial, mental, spiritual, true, not being bound by anything. And so I always say this, it's kind of a phrase I teach. For those who believe in freedom, entrepreneurship is the default economy. And entrepreneurship is not anything in particular. So why am I like Mr. Crypto Boy now, so to speak, and I have been since 2011? That's because it's the best opportunity. I just saw, whoa, what was so funny, Jared?
Well, I like how you said crypto boy, but not crypto boy-y. And that's all. I just wanted to, inflections matter. That's all.
Yeah, inflections matter. I don't know if someone in another country would catch me when I call it crypto boys. Exactly. They're all in a Twitter space going, bro.
Come on, but bro, if you don't buy the dip, bro, sell your record, buy the dip.
But we had different points of views, and we talked about it. And I was split because my end game isn't to be Mr. Crypto. My end game is to, fulfill my dream, to write more and to teach more. And I'll get there any which way but loose. So for me, financial freedom, cash flow, real estate, it's a big debate. We had a lot of good mojo. We were able to hold. I have a really smart guy. Jared has met this guy, Dr. Joe Childs. He often says maturity is the ability to hold two differing opinions in your brain and not adopt either. And that's what intellectualism is. And around crypto, I think we're desperate. I think there's a lot of crypto people who are dying. They go on every Twitter space on the planet, and I think they're dying for a more intellectual conversation. But the name Not Crypto Bros also gives us the freedom to bring on Not Crypto Gals and people talking about gold, people talking about TradFi, talking about a lot of it as we're scratching the main topic right now, which I think is crypto. So that's kind of the backdrop there. I was able to get Victor's deal up. You guys want to peek at that real quick?
Go for it.
Okay, so let's pull this up and let me get these screens just right. Oh, here, let me do this, get this off our faces. There we go. So right here, this is the link, Victor. And Victor, if you're still watching, thanks for dropping this link. If not, we'll give you a shout or tag you later. He's got African art NFTs, and this is kind of cool. This actually looks like a life-sized sculpture. But if you play this, this is augmented reality right there. And so that is an NFT, apparently, that you can own or place and still run your own video. In fact, he's doing, it looks like an NFT gallery where you can do photo shoots and video shoots with some of that. So let's make a note to bring this guy on. Do you know where in Africa he is? Or is this in the US based, but African art?
So I'm actually not sure, Victor. If you want to hop in the comments, that'd be great. I have him lined up to hopefully come on my podcast. And actually, we are getting ready to buy in the next China ban. We are. I think I'm actually going to be recording tomorrow with Victor. I'm not sure, but I do know Victor and I have normally only ever spoke Spanish. So Victor, if you want to drop in where you're out of, that would be cool.
Yeah,
his stuff is amazing. So this is really right here. This is why I want to do Not Crypto Bros, because we're going to get people in the chat. We can live interact. It's kind of like an old school radio show, but we're going to have a audio and a visual component. And as we share it over our 3 channels, ideally it just continues to grow and more people hop on, and there's just synergy because I didn't know Victor was going to be on today. Now he's on, and I've seen a bunch of his stuff with this AR, and I just think, as a guy, and actually, Jay, I'd actually want to talk about this. As a guy who had the Oculus goggles, and I shared this with you, I returned them after about 4 to 5 uses because.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. So he says he's out of Pennsylvania, but I returned them after about maybe doing 6 hours with the goggles because I was getting dizzy. And I would take them off, and I would have to lay down and put my feet up and drink water and take a acetaminophen.
Actual vertigo.
Actual vertigo. And I don't ever, put me on a roller coaster, put me anywhere, put me in a small room. I don't have any of those things. So it was kind of disconcerting. But one of the things when I commented on Jay's post, and I said, hey, this was my experience. I had to return them. Jay, I hope they work, because I was bummed because I really enjoyed everything I did in Augmented and virtual reality. That's a full VR set. But so I returned it, but I was bummed because I really enjoyed it. And I'm looking forward to Apple coming out with theirs.
I saw that
because I know that their tech is always perfected. But one of the things that was left in the comments on Jay's post was somebody else, and I forget who it was, but they said, hey, you know what? Or I said, maybe it's because I don't have a history of playing video games. And one of the guys who commented on Jay's post said, yeah, I grew up playing video games. So I don't know whether it's just me, but one of the things I do know, and then Jay, I'd really want to hear how your experience is going, is if you have the goggles on and you're looking into the goggles, there's a certain point where your eyes have to hit. But what happens as humans is if I want to look down, I'm not going to move my whole head. I'm just going to move my eyes. And here I am moving my eyes, and this looks super weird, but this is where the goggles should be when I'm moving my eyes. But once you get off that sweet spot, you are going to be in a place that's a little bit blurry. And what I think was happening was over the 30 to 40 minutes, it compounds. And then eventually I hit a wall, as I would call it, about 40 minutes of use. And it always sucked because I really liked playing around in the virtual environments. And I actually really liked playing in Gravity Sketch and creating stuff 3D with my hands and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So Jay, if I can ask you, how has your experience been? What apps have you been playing with? And tell me, please.
Yeah, I'd say my experience was like yours initially, where it was, oh, no, I only see me. That's pretty cool. So it was basically like, it was blurry around the edges, right? And that was kind of weird. So I did some research trying to figure out like what was up with that. Was I doing it wrong? But it seems like that's what it's supposed to be like. There's a sweet spot, like you said, that you can look at. But after using it a few times, I figured out that I just had it sitting kind of weirdly on my face. Like I had it pulled all the way down, like as if it were like a baseball cap, like all as far down as
Oh,
it can go.
interesting.
But it's supposed to sit on the top of your cheekbones, like right here. And once you get it to
Okay.
that place, then it sort of opens up a little bit more. But then I think over time, like using it a bit more, I got into the habit of turning my head rather than moving my eyes. And
I'm wondering how
yeah,
long it takes to acclimate.
I'd say maybe after the second or third time I used it. But to your point, Jared, I did grow up playing video games as well. So I don't know if that has something to do with it. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure if it does. And one of the things, I may have been wearing it wrong. I may have just had it, like you said, like Jay-Z Black Album, and it's sitting low. I may have needed to have it a little bit higher. So maybe I was just, and I think that's one of the things that I do miss of buying things in stores. And if you've ever listened to any of my podcasts, I'm very much like, we're all going to be buying stuff via the metaverse and trying it on our avatars.
I think
It's
so.
going to be shipped to our house.
Yeah.
But this is one of the things I miss, because having a fit, and I know the Oculus does this actually, because I did a walkthrough, but even then I still didn't get that one thing where you said like, it's supposed to fit, sit right here. But it's really interesting what you've just said about moving your head around to see, because for me, I grew up playing hockey and soccer, and I still play soccer whenever my body lets me now at my mid-30s. But when you're playing soccer, your head stays here and your eyes will move down to see the ball, because if you put your head down, you could get tackled. You're not going to see everything. And in hockey too, when you skate, you keep your head up because the puck is also in front of you. And so if anyone's playing hockey, they're going to know what I'm talking about. You never put your head down. The second you put your head down, you're going to get crunched.
Surfing is similar. Like Tony Robbins used to talk about, like when you're driving race cars, you ever do the NASCAR experience or hear about the NASCAR experience where you get into a NASCAR as a rube and you get a driver and you floor it. You're going literally 200 and nearly to a person, they hit the wall. And Tony Robbins was doing this, and he realized that, Alex says, I can relate to the soccer thing.
I feel you. I feel you. Shout out my other podcast, Boys and Bolos, if you're into the Premier League. That's another story. Sorry, Grant, keep going.
So Tony Robbins was like, hey, how do I not wreck this thing into the wall? He said, well, your body goes where your chin and nose are pointed. And so when he says, if you're trying to drive a NASCAR, you are going so fast, you need to be looking where you want to go, but you're looking at the wall because you're freaked out about it. Surfing is similar. Growing up surfing here on the East Coast, like you kind of get locked in. Once you find your line on a wave, you kind of get locked in. And then it's micro eye movements to actually like pivot. And then when you need to do a big move, you then move the head, but your head is moving to guide the body. And they said this in basketball. So it does sound like it would be a transition to put on the Oculus and get used to like moving the head around as opposed to keeping locked in and being weird.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want people to think that like when I'm picking up my cell phone, I'm just like moving my eyes. Like obviously I'm moving my head.
Weirdo.
But I don't know. Maybe the fact that I suck at video games is actually like catching up and now ruining my ability to be a player in the VR, because I got the Oculus, and I think I just told both of you this, but what my buddy Jeff and I we're trying to do, and this goes back to soccer, to Alex. We run a podcast called Boys and Bolos, and that's definitely separate outside of Not Crypto Bros. But what we wanted to do was we wanted to buy land, I think, in Sandbox, and we wanted to have our own studio, and we just wanted to have our avatars be the podcast. You hear our voices, but if you ever want to watch it, you're going to watch these two weird avatars. Now, I still do believe that is the future of podcasting. And maybe
I think
one day that's where Not Crypto Bros turns in, and we're just all like 3D little holographic little actual crypto bros, but not crypto bros. Mm-hmm. And I do think that's where podcasting and content creation is going. I don't see a way that it's not. I'm a guy who didn't grow up with video games, and I put the VR goggles on the first time in 2017. I was at Facebook, and Facebook acquired Oculus, I think in 2015 for $2 billion, 2015 or 2014 for $2 billion.
Yeah.
And I was OG. Yeah, it's OG. And I had him on, and I had to sign an NDA. And I was actually with my friend, Luz Maya, who's here right now. She's from the Bay, and we met up in Colombia just to work from home and hang out because we never get to see one another. And I remember I tried him on, and I had him on for like an hour, and I did not want to take them off. She's like, no, we need to go. And I'm like, I'm busy, like shooting some gun at some stupid thing. So anyways, they're very addicting, and I can totally see the future of Ready Player One, right? Like I do believe that's happening. It's 100%. Just a matter of tech. Yeah.
I absolutely believe that.
Have you tried any VR goggles?
I haven't. No, I haven't, and I'm dying to try because I think so. I was going to post this link, and I can't post it here. And the link was to something I showed Jarrett before, Jay, and it was a character who is doing a metaverse show as his metaverse avatar called Xanadu.
Okay.
And I again, I don't have the link on hand. I just pulled it up, which is why we got laggy for a second on YouTube. But it's with the X, Xanadu, and he goes by Blue, and he's got this CG character, and he does a podcast from the show. Now, it's all done in post-production. It's not obvious, but he can't go live yet. But when the technology is in place for us to also go live as our avatars kind of seamlessly, that's when you're going to see a huge come through. And the equipment is there, but it's still kind of expensive. There's the link. I was able to drop it in there.
Okay, cool. I would say, Grant, if you're into it, Oculus has a 30-day return policy. Now, I returned it after about 45 or 60, and I just pleaded with them, and I think that they are so used to that because they were like, okay, we'll do this one time. And they sent the exact same, if you're Oculus, if you're listening, please don't get mad at me. They sent the exact same email to my boy Jeff, and we're sitting next to each other, both like, it gives me like, yeah, I can't sleep for nights because I'm like in Gravity Sketch. So if I were you, I would buy it and keep it for 30 days. If you love it and it works, keep it. And if you don't, send it back. The return shipping was really easy. And I think you'll just need a couple days to kind of figure out if it's going to work. And you can talk to Crypto Bushi because I know that he lives in one of those.
I was literally just thinking that. I just saw him this morning, actually.
Okay, cool.
I just saw Crypto Bushi this morning. For those who don't know, Crypto Bushi has got a really fun art challenge going. And what's he using? What app is he using?
He's using Blender. He uses Blender primarily to create a lot of his work.
So he's on like day 162 of his art challenge, Jay, and it's all in Oculus. And at the co-working space, it's super funny because at the co-working space, you'll turn around and you can see everyone's offices are glass. You can turn around and Crypto Bushi's over there, like
locked in.
But for a while, he does meetings in there and everything. So I think we could even have him on the show. That would be super fun to have him on. Yeah, totally. That's great. And Jay, did you say you had it and you returned it, or you still have yours?
I still have it. I use it mostly as like a replacement for my TV. I don't have cable or anything like that. I watch like movies on YouTube and stuff like that. So that's all I do. Like at the end of the day, I put it on and just watch YouTube videos until it's time to go to sleep.
So I have a web design company, and one thought we had was, like picks and axes. As an entrepreneur, I'm always thinking of like picks and axes. So maybe this is a question to both of you. I'll seed my idea, and if you've thought of anything like this, I'd be super curious. One of the things about picks and axes are there's going to be tons of drag and drop, no code development solutions coming soon for augmented reality and virtual reality. As a web design company, what we thought is there's a huge market for stock photos, stock icons. These things exist. But what about stock AR prefab design themes? Because right now as a web designer, people come to me and they say, hey, I need to buy a website. And they always ask this question, hey, is it going to cost extra for the mobile site? This is a 15-year-old paradigm that still is in the consumer's mind. We build the website, what's called responsive. It automatically works on mobile. It basically falls into place. You should never pay extra that you used to have to in the aughts in like 2000, 2010, maybe 2012. You had to shell out a whole separate budget for a mobile website. You don't have to do that anymore. But what will happen is, have you ever seen dark mode on a website?
Yeah.
There's a whole different set of code that has to occur for you to flick a website or an app. If you have an app that's ever had dark mode, like this is happening a lot more with web design. Similarly, the website reads what device you're on always. Like it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter. Every website reads what device you're on. If you're in an Oculus, there needs to be a whole new set, I think, of CSS that it's kind of like dark mode or mobile mode, but it's super stripped down and minimalist if someone's in AR mode or it's like a virtual site if it's VR mode. And so we're thinking, can we just come up with this, with the code, the CSS and HTML template networks for that? Because people are going to be onboarding to the Oculus pretty aggressively. But I don't know. You're telling me you're returning it, so maybe not. I don't know.
Well, I clearly I'm a special character. I mean, I didn't grow up playing video games, and I think according to what Jay said, which I think is spot on, maybe I was just weighing it wrong. Now I want to go borrow one from my friend, throw it on, put it the way Jay said, because like I said, I had it was tipping low. And so maybe I just need to try it again. But it is something that whenever it's figured out, and I even think the Oculus in general, I think has a lot of work to do, because the battery was really quick. And I got the special head thing, so it was nice and comfortable, like a lazy boy from my dome. And then I got the extra battery pack. It was like a Boba Fett situation, but it's still, you know, the battery still went. And maybe I was just in the metaverse and I like where time doesn't exist, right? But like the battery went. So I'm excited for Apple will do one. They're working on it. And then I also think apparently everyone's making smartphones. So like when is Solana going to make one? And when's Tesla going to make one? Tesla's been rumored to make a cell phone.
I saw talk about a Solana cell phone.
Yeah. And I think that's crazy. Jay, I want to throw this at you because I feel like maybe I saw you post about it. What are your thoughts on cryptocurrency companies making hardware in general?
Yeah. I have about that, but it makes sense because it's all sort of like templated at this point, right? If Walmart wanted to come up with a mobile phone or a smartphone, they could probably do it because we've been doing it for so long, and just sort of like leave the cutting edge stuff to Apple and Samsung and those guys out there, and then eventually you get up there, because most people who want to use that kind of tech, they just want a few features. And so it makes sense that, if you're a brand and you've got some brand loyal customers, to take advantage of the fact that you can make your own tech. That's really why Meta is making that's why they're making the Oculus now, right? It's so that they can extract more loyalty out of their customers. But then when you have that piece of hardware, you also get a whole bunch of more information about how people are interacting with your brand and with your products. It makes sense.
It's literally like just another matrix plug for them to get more behavioral data. That's a great point. I didn't even think about that. That is a huge point. Jarrett, you sent me a link just now. What is this?
I did. I sent you a link because I think that, Jay, I thought I served you up a tough question, but you just destroyed that, man. I was like, I was going for a layup, and you just LeBron'd it out of my hand. Yeah. I just sent you a link, Grant. If you can share that screen while I'm talking, that'd be great. So years ago, there was a bunch of people that bought the Palm. Back in the day, there was Palm Pilot.
Palm Pilot.
And they bought the rights to that. And Steph Curry is actually one of the biggest, and he's not the biggest, but he's the most well-known investor. And their idea, I believe it was this phone or maybe it been another phone, but their idea was like, you don't need a lot of stuff. Most people need text. They maybe need some music, and they need like one or two other things. So what you would do is you would have this phone, and I forget exactly, but it's like this phone was so stripped down that it would be something you're like going to take out to the club, because when the club, you just need to be able to order an Uber, text your friend where you're at in the club, and maybe take some pictures, and that's it. But it was super, super, super slim down, and it was actually, hence Palm, it was a much smaller device, because for me, the 11,
interesting.
And I don't have like the largest hands. The 11, I have to do like, it's like I have to rock climb just to text on this thing. So I'm super pumped about this. I still haven't bought one, but it's serious. I mean, I don't have a big hand. So anyways, this was a really cool thing. And I think, Jay, you're spot on that. Like at the end of the day, if you think about your phone, and you can all go in, we can all go look at what we use like 2 or 3 apps all the time. And everything else, they're like nice to haves, but can you do without them? 100%. So anyways, I just wanted to share this with you because Steph Curry, his Warriors just beat my Celtics. It happens. And I knew that he was a pretty big, this was on a 60 Minutes a couple of years ago, where they were talking about how cell phones have kind of gotten out of control. And you don't need a Lambo to go down to the corner store bodega. Like it's right there. You can walk. So
That's funny. It reminds me of the senior citizen phone, the Jitterbug. Have you seen commercials?
Oh,
for
I
that?
remember that.
No, but I know the
Just-
song.
There's
Yeah.
just like two big fat buttons, and it's like dial 911, call the grandkids.
So there we go. There's the question. When does Not Crypto Bros come out with its own phone? That
Oh,
the
shit.
only thing
we
you
just
have,
should.
well, the only thing you have is move, and there's two buttons.
Yeah.
Move to cold storage, buy more. Those are the only two options. You
Move
can't
to
sell.
cold storage, buy more.
That's it. You can't sell.
It's funny.
That's fun. You can't sell. There's no sell button.
No,
So
there's no sell.
that is interesting. Well, we could talk about that later. I just saw that FTX was going to buy Robinhood. You were making me
Yeah.
think of like Robinhood people, but actually FTX came out and debunked that rumor already.
Oh, that wasn't real.
That wasn't real. In fact, FTX came out and debunked it. And there's rumor that Robinhood is at its 52-week low. Like,
Sheesh. Buy
yeah.
something.
And so there's rumor that they're trying to start the rumor to prop up their stock price. It's like, bros, you couldn't be later to the game. But fun fact, the first crypto I bought was on Robinhood. No, that's not true. In the second wave of crypto, the first crypto I bought, I had to how long have you guys been buying crypto?
I've been buying Bitcoin since 2017.
2015.
Okay. 2015. So back in 2011, I literally you had to put in hash codes to actually originally how the fuck do I get this? I tell people the story that I originally bought Bitcoin in 2011 around the $800 mark, give or take, in that zone. I literally probably spent 500 just losing money.
Just trying to figure out how to do it.
Yeah, figuring out the wallets. I literally was like, nobody knew. Like, you had to go to FAQ boards and go, hey, I just sent money from my bank directly to my Bitcoin wallet and it disappeared. Can someone refund me? And they're like, bro, you got to convert that. And you're like, what's a conversion? It was a different world back then, for sure. But no, I remember when Robinhood came out with Dogecoin. That's what I meant to say. I bought my first Dogecoin on Robinhood and I cleaned up. I killed it on Dogecoin and Robinhood for sure. Yeah. I made stupid amounts of profit on Doge.
Grant, there are Bitcoin maxis listening to this, and you know how they say in Peter Pan, if you lie or something, a fairy dies. Something just happened in the world because you're bragging that you made Dogecoin on Robinhood.
I did. Some Bitcoin maxi's third born child was like, no, dad, and disappears and dies. Yeah.
somebody just ran off the road, the butterfly effect.
The karmic wheel is off balance. Yeah.
So, Grant, because Robinhood's so far down, does that mean you're going to buy some of their stock? Jay, have you thought about this too? I don't know if you guys are into TradFi. For me, it's not. But it's an interesting thing. If Robinhood, I don't know. I think Robinhood may have had its moment. I guess that's my thought. What do you guys think? Do you think it's going to continue to do well, or is it a company that's in the next 5 years will kind of be bought out and wither away?
I'll let Jay answer. I've been talking. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are a few companies like that might not make it, but it all sort of depends on whether or not they can hold on to the space that they have in people's minds and people's hearts and in the culture. And I don't think a lot of companies are really interested in creating content. They just sort of want to, sell people products. And so if you're just trying to sell stuff, eventually people are going to forget about you. And that opens up the door for more smaller companies to show up and do some cool stuff. But whether or not Robinhood in particular makes it, I don't know. It's like you said, they may have had their moment. It might be like Venmo. I feel like Venmo had its moment.
Yeah.
And,
Where is that now? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very interested because it's for me, I feel like, well, in 10 years, let me think about 10 years in the future. When I'm talking about Robinhood, this is where I think it will be. It died out 5 years before I talk about it in 10 years, which means it dies in 5 years. And I'm like, You know what happened with Robinhood? Here's what happened with Robinhood. Stimulus checks. Everybody and their mama got their stimmy checks. They went on Robinhood and they just started buying a bunch of stuff because the UX makes it look like a video game. And then no one was losing money because the stock market went from, from a recession, even though it was only a 2-month recession in 2020, to all-time highs. Crypto market did this too. A lot of people bought Dogecoin, like you're talking about. This happened to me too with Doge. Bought under a cent. It was stupid what happened. But then they had that whole GameStop fiasco where they were messed up on liquidity and had to block people's, taking money out. How do you say taking money out? I can't think. I'm thinking in Spanish.
Profits?
When they were withdrawals, and they were trying to take their money out. Robinhood blocked people up and cost people millions of dollars. And I think that as far as the culture, people are like, no, why would we ever want to play with Robinhood if they have liquidity problems? So that to me is what I think, but I'm not sure. Grant?
So I was paying very close attention at the time because I was doing a ton of initial trading with Robinhood. And in the GameStop fiasco, they actually did not block withdrawals ever. They only blocked new buys.
So was that it? So I'm wrong.
Well, there is that myth, right? Like, oh man, they're completely centralized. And it's like, this was a situation where centralization was actually good because people were buying GameStop at the high and they said no more. And there was a liquidity issue because they were overbought. The pace of people buying, they're required by the SEC to have a certain amount of float. And it is a responsibility thing to say, listen, you can never sell more than float, because if you sell more than float, you can't make everybody whole that wants to get out. So they allowed everyone to get out. They stopped new buys until the balance books actually got in. So this was a moment where I believe consumer protection actually stemmed more loss, stemmed it from going beyond. But it did get everyone but hurt who was in the Wall Street Bets GameStop Reddit, who were like, let's just go effing ham because we're market makers. And then the myth that spread is, man, these guys didn't play fair. You're market making. Like, you're the ones not playing fair, and you took people for a ride. And Robinhood, the only responsible thing to do was to be like, hey, but to Jay's point, maybe Robinhood, if we don't start, you used a great word that Robinhood has never bit onto, and that is content. Robinhood has, since the day they went public, they stopped their messaging, their content. Right now, FTX has content, but in the form of just announcing that they're a crypto company, right? They've just got a lot of PR. And so right now, all this public sentiment goes over there. I am not necessarily a crypto maxi. I'm an opportunist, and I double down on human behavior. I believe Robinhood will come back a little bit for a specific reason. Number one, math. They're at a 52-week low. Number two, they're going to try to compete. They just announced today, I just got the notification, they did announce that they just got Chainlink. And so they're trying, and they're institutional, and they're going to do what I call fat fingers. But let's say they go from $9 and change, wherever they're at right now, to this 52-week low. Let's say they only come back 12%. For me, I'm looking heavily at TradFi right now. And the reason is everything's at 52-week lows. The last major investment moolah, me and Marissa, my wife Jay, made, we had a little kitty fund set aside for when the market when the shit hits the fan. And the beginning of the pandemic, everything was at a 52-week low except crypto. So I'm not going to buy into crypto. Where am I going to look? Where it's at its low. TradFi's at its low. Now, I didn't buy willy-nilly. We set a few parameters. In Think and Grow Rich, it talks about a guy that was when the Black Friday in the 30s, when the Wall Street tanked, they borrowed $10K and they bought $100 and 100 cryptos. They lost 99% of their buys, and 1% of their buys absolutely took off. This is me and Marissa's philosophy. We 3x'd our money in 13 months. We bought our investment property on those returns. My point is, If you get hung up on a particular asset class, even if you're great at that asset class, Michael Saylor, you know Bitcoin inside and out. Well, what are you going to do in the down markets? Dollar cost average and twiddle your thumbs. But if you are just a master of principles, this is my philosophy, then you can move in and out of whatever market's opportunistic at the moment. Yeah. And so right now we're looking that's a long, stupid answer to, we're looking heavily at traditional markets. We're looking heavily at Nintendo. I made stupid on Nintendo just before they launched Pokemon Go because I'm a big nerd and I love the idea. But Nintendo, Pokemon Go bought Facebook at $33 back in the day. And then now we're looking at Tesla again because I think they're going to split again.
They're going to split early August, and they're going to split to 5. And there is, it's the one I shared with you, Grant. The one about it's this guy Invest Answers, and he has one of the best YouTubes. I think I started watching him. He has like 40,000 subs. Now he has 500,000 subs, and rightfully so. He's a guy who I look and I'm like, you're doing the work. You're bringing unbelievable value to your community. Yeah. Good on you for getting the subs. And he's basically like, if you get 10 Tesla stocks, 10 stocks of Tesla before August, each stock's about $700. So you're looking at $7,000. This is not any small amount of change.
No.
Then when it goes to 1 to 5 split, then you're going to have 50. And according to Kathy Woods from ARK Invest, she says that due to her price that she's putting on Tesla stock, you need about 45. You need to be holding 45 stocks of Tesla to have $1 million by the year 2030, which is an absolutely fascinating idea. So what I'm saying to you today is, once again, this is not financial advice. We are not crypto bros. It's to say that if you put in $7,000 into the machine, maybe in less than 8 years, you may have $1 million. Now, a lot is going to happen there, but I think Tesla is so undervalued. My father got in early because he was one of the first people in Massachusetts to even have a Prius. So he was all on this like electric kick. So when he saw Tesla come out, he was like, oh, that's easy, and put some money in. And you know, when you buy low and then you wait long enough, and it's a good idea. And I think that's another one that's just absolutely going to be crazy. I had thought about the Nintendo one only because, once again, I am so video game agnostic, but I do know that it is growing at a crazy pace. I think, what did I hear the other day? It was like gaming is like I think this guy was saying gaming was like $180 billion industry, but that by 2030, it's like 700 billion, which I still think is conservative. If everything with VR and AR happens, because like I can totally see a future where Pokemon Go comes back. Everyone has their AR goggles, so you're able to walk around normally, and then you hit that button, and then all of a sudden you're running after a Charizard. So like I see that future.
Well, you know why I knew about this? This was not because I knew about Nintendo. This was because Google had a gaming arm called Niantic. Do you remember this?
Yeah.
I don't. Jay, do you remember this?
I know about
Jay,
Niantic,
you remember, they were actually really cool. They had a game, and I forgot who they did it in partnership, but it came out of Google Ventures. And they were pulling the Google history database for historical sites. And they had a game kind of like Pokemon Go where they had stations, but these stations were just pulled from Google's database of historic sites. And you'd go and they just did an AR layer on top of it. And it looked like it didn't have great graphics. I forget the name I need to remember the name of this, but I was paying attention to Google X. So, but the only reason I bring that up is not to impress any viewers or your guys, but to impress upon everyone. To me, it's principles. And the best principle is grow what you know. And so everyone looks like, Facebook. If Grant got Facebook at $33, the story behind the story is I sold it at $100 like an idiot, and we took that money and moved to the Dominican Republic for a year. And that sounds fun, but I kind of regret selling when I did, But I knew the tech at the time. Google, we were going to buy Google Glass, but instead, Marissa, my wife, challenged me, well, hey, instead of Google Glass, why don't we just buy that much in Google stock? And we did. And it split twice. And it's like, okay, so grow what you know. And because of that, I was paying attention to Google Ventures. And Google Ventures, Niantic spun off to its own private company, and then they announced a partnership with Nintendo long before Pokemon Go came out. And then I was like, I'm paying attention. That's why I bought Nintendo. So following your nose, I think, like you with soccer, Jarrett, or Jay, I don't know much about your personal life, but whether it's podcasting technology or whatever you're into, I really think you should follow your intuition and your interests more than anything. And that's what's led me. I'm interested in real estate. I believe it or not, I'm interested in it. And that's what's led me into some of my real estate investments. So I don't know. Yeah, I only say that to say follow your interest, because it sounds super genius, like predicting the future. And it's like, I don't know. Warren Buffett, he called it. What does he say? Like nearly everything is set to go up based on the math of supply and demand. So why not just stick with something you like? What's your thought there, Jay? Did you have a thought?
Yeah, well, I want to ask you this question, because I sort of have this theory in my mind about how you make wealth. And you obviously can make a ton of wealth by investing, because your money can increase exponentially. But I sort of feel like in my hat, I feel like I don't want to bet on somebody else's company. I want to bet on myself.
I agree with that.
And if I create my own company with my own idea, that there's a higher, like the likelihood of higher potential is there. I don't know if I said that right, but you know what I mean? Like you can probably get your money to a higher place if you invest in yourself. What do you think about that?
Jared, I've been talking. Do you have an answer, or is that directed at me directly?
Is that directed? Okay, I'll go to give Grant some respite here. So this just reminds me of a J. Cole lyric from his latest album. And he says, if I'm betting on myself, then I completely double down. And I just totally eat that for breakfast, because I feel the same way. I think the only asymmetrical bet you kind of have in this world is just investing in yourself. And I know that sounds like super cheesy and kind of Tony Robbins-y, like I'm standing on a stage like, you can do it, like si se puede, todos pueden. But it's really serious. Like you, at the end of the day, that's it, right? Like your life is a lifelong art project, and every day is kind of like a show and tell. And so you kind of have to show up and put something together. And it's been interesting, because I'm at a point in my career, I throw career in quotes, because I haven't never really had a straight line. I've done a bunch of different things. I do feel like a jack of all trades, but right is better than a master of none. And I feel like maybe the two of you also feel the same way. Yeah. And so yeah, I completely feel that way. I mean, I'm trying to build more than blockchain, and part of building more than blockchain is doing something like this, starting a completely new venture with two people. There's nothing more Web3 I've ever done in my life than what we're doing right now. I've never met you two. You two guys could be some weirdos, right?
Yeah,
I don't think so. But like maybe we're all sitting in a cafe one day. We're like, wow, we really don't like each other.
Yeah.
But that to me is really where I'm really excited for right now, because I just think that like if we're gonna and I don't want to sound like Kiyosaki here, but it's like getting a degree, getting a job, and then thinking that's going to solve your problems is not going to work in a world where the U.S. government prints money when they want to.
Yeah,
right? You're always going to be trying to get up higher the corporate ladder. You're always going to be, and when you're ever working in a corporation, which is great. I mean, I work for one for my 9 to 5. The money that I take home at the end of the day isn't always reflective of the amount of value I put in, but that's just the contract I have with the company.
Yeah.
They say, hey, we're going to pay you this many dollar bills for your work. And I say, okay. But when I'm doing it for myself by building with you guys, building more than blockchain, Grant, I know you have a bunch of company under the Spark Nation. Jay, I know you have the Web3 podcast network. These are things that no one can take away from you. And at the end of the day, more than blockchain, no one really knows about it, but it's something that I see a future, and I know I'm building, and I have a 5-year plan now. And I'm just like, hey, this brand, you can't take it away. You can take my computer, you can take my laptop, you can take my mic. I think for me in the future, for me now, even building wealth is all about finding things that have a global reach and a global interest, because anyone can listen to this. And I kind of sound like Naval Ravikant, where he talks about how if you want to be really wealthy, I think this really stuck with me. It's like you have to be able to sell, and you have to be able to build. And those that can sell and build crush. And the best example probably in our lifetime is Steve Jobs. Now, people will say, oh, he didn't do all of the work on he was just kind of like the brain, but he had to do enough to be able to say that that's right, that's wrong. And then as far as the salesman, I mean, he's Steve Jobs, right? Give him a black turtleneck, and he could sell an Eskimo ice. So I think those two things are really what I'm interested in. And so building for me now is more than blockchain. And I do admit I suffer on the sales sides of that equation to wealth that Naval Ravikant does lay out. I'm not the best salesman. I think I'm really good at creating partnerships and finding people and saying, hey, 1 and 1 equals 7, like what we're doing, right? 1 and 1 probably equals like 10 or 12.
Yeah.
But as far as selling a product or a service, I've never really been good at it. So I think that's where maybe in my own wealth journey, I'm trying to become a better salesman. But I also think the best salesman, the reason why is because they're pushing the best product. And that's why I'm so excited to build more than blockchain to something that, hopefully I can, get paid for one day. But Grant?
Yeah. Yes. So short answer, because I can be long-winded, is absolutely, Jay. I think you have to build yourself. Now, you had a coupled question though, and that was, building yourself versus building someone else's wealth. And so when people usually share that thought, what they're getting at is build your own business. But you caveated or you changed it a little bit and said build yourself. And maybe you meant build it yourself, but what I was hearing was build yourself up. And I like the fact that I appreciate the fact that you gave it a little bit of that spin, because I've now built enough businesses. I don't know about you gentlemen, but I've been building some type of business since I was 22, and I still have not built a 7 or 8. That's not true. I built 2 7-figure ventures, but both were stolen from me, and I never manifested that money. And I learned some hard lessons that way. Since then, I haven't built another 7-figure standalone, what we understand as business. Assets, that's a little bit different, but assets don't take me to Italy necessarily, But my real ambition right now is to build an 8-figure company, A, because I think we need to, but B, I like that metric. It's an arbitrary metric, but I like who I have to become. I like the picture of who I have to mature into to become that person. But I say that as context to the answer, and that is I'm realizing the limitations of building it yourself. And I'm really losing interest in building up a business. I'm really interested in partnering, because for me, where I have seen my businesses fail or not achieve the outcome I wanted, even though I might have made a lot of money from it or some money from it or had some freedoms from it, the limitation I am encountering big time is the limitation of my true ability to empower the people around me the way Steve Jobs did. And not the way he did, but because you brought it up, Jarrett, the way he did, to truly empower people to achieve their greatness, to truly empower people to see a vision. I've been a vision caster, but I'm realizing, like you mentioned Robert Kiyosaki, the ESBI, the cash flow quadrant. I'm no longer really interested in the S quadrant at all, and I'm losing interest in the B quadrant. I like the idea of investing in people. Maybe it's my season of life. Maybe it's just a more leveraged activity, and I'm sick of being a business owner. In the back of my mind, it's because the skill I want to acquire of truly launching people. And so, Jay, the answer to your question is yes, build yourself up. If you've got to take the journey through self-employment, great, but not everyone does. My wife just got a JOB because she wanted to build herself up. She's been doing entrepreneurship with me, and she's hitting her lid. So she's going into employment to learn a new set of skills. And so I think we need to admit that no one's journey, there is no prescribed journey. But if you do what Jay said, cultivate yourself, I think that wealth is inevitable.
I think, Grant, that was awesome. And then Jay, I want to hear where you're on your wealth journey. And I think one of the things I want to rephrase too is that for me, wealth right now has nothing to do with money. It's really based around peace of mind. And my metric right now is how well do I sleep at night? This past year for me on a personal level has been heavy. I've had some stuff. And I know at night, if I'm not sleeping well, I'm like, well, so what can I change? And so I've been starting to work out a lot more. That's helping me to kind of connect body and mind and spirit. But for me, like, I have friends that make 5, 6, 8 times as much as I do a year, but I look at them and they're not like sleeping well. Maybe there's substance abuse, maybe there's other things. So I think the other thing that like our generations are doing is we are reframing wealth within the society and the context we are. Because for 50 years ago, wealth is a picket fence, a house, a golden retriever, 2 cars. You go to vacation, you go to Disney World. I'm up from Massachusetts. We go down to Florida twice a year, and that's wealth. Wow, those people are wealthy, Sure. And I think the conversation around wealth is totally changing. Digital nomads are totally changing this conversation. Now, when people can work from home, they're totally changing the conversation. And this new digital world is totally going to change the conversation, because it's all going to be about what you own on chain, your NFTs. That's how you're going to flash your wealth. Like how much space in your apartment does your Bored Ape collection take up, right? So you don't need this huge space anymore, right? You don't need 3 cars garage for your Lambos. So I think wealth is also changing. And I think the pandemic also put to the forefront that health is wealth, and that no matter what you have, if you are not taking care of yourself in a way that may make you susceptible to a pandemic disease or a virus, like those are things that, you really need to tangle with. So, but Jay, coming back full circle to you, where are you on your wealth journey, and how? I'm assuming that you're seeing yourself as, like J. Cole said, if I'm betting on myself, I completely double down. How is that for you?
I feel like I've been doubling down on myself my whole life. So, like Grant, to your point, when I said improving yourself, I can't remember if those were the exact words, but that is the way I meant it. But building up yourself, exactly the way I meant it. Because I haven't necessarily done the math, but I'm pretty sure I've spent over like $250,000 on university degrees in my lifetime, maybe more, maybe close to $500,000. But and so like I've taken to the point, like Jared knows the story. So, but I'm looking at doing something similar in terms of building a business as well, right? That I don't just sort of want to be working to empower somebody else's business and helping someone else to accomplish their goal and their dream, and just sort of letting my stuff, the ideas that I have, the stuff that's in my hat, just sort of fall to the wayside. And I guess offline we can talk a bit more about like what those business ideas are, because it's all still pretty young and fresh. But yeah, I something to deliver, and so wanting to take it down that path, but like something to offer to the world as well, and it's about taking the opportunities while you have them to be able to do that stuff. I'd hate to be 60 or 70 years old and be thinking, man, I wish I had taken the opportunity to do that instead of just working this 9 to 5. I'm sure lots of other people feel the same way.
Yeah. No, that's good. And you have to chase it, at some point, I believe at some point, we call it wealth. I was re-anchored on the definition of wealth from the Napoleon Hill's writings, and he wrote the definition of wealth. He called it the 13 aspects of wealth, and only the last one was material wealth. And the public doesn't know this. Maybe Jarrett does. Maybe Jay, you're cued in on this. But I just got back from a last-minute trip to visit my grandmother, who is in hospice care, and we think today she's going to go. And I'm very comfortable with death. Not many people are. And obviously, this person offline, maybe someday we could talk about this amazing epic history this person has had in 90 years of living. But I'm sitting there and watching this person go. And when I'm in these moments, I try to look these people in the face and watch this moment of deterioration, because I know that this is our inevitable end, right? And I try to reconcile, what is it I want when I'm on that side of the chair? And this idea, surrounded by plenty of people, not necessarily many people, but lovingly people, even just one who truly knows me and can watch me go out, or at least escort me out what they call the dark door, right? So for me, riches are riches of relationship, riches of experiences. Jay, you're talking about, did I try to manifest this thing? I remember I'm Mr. ADD. I don't write. I borderline like struggle with that. But I've written 7 books, and now I find no better joy than writing. And I want to write more just for the experience, and getting what I can out of life. I wanted to start businesses and live financial freedom. So I did it because I wanted that experience. And the freedom to chase those desires, to me, I could die having truly achieved everything I want, even though like I have like a whole bucket list. Like I want to try this shit and this shit and this shit and this shit. But truly, the first world blessing that, what's it like to live on an island? I moved to the Dominican Republic. What's it like to serve Haitians? I worked in Haiti for 5 years. What's it like to I've done these things, and I don't come from money. I was on the street. Jarrett knows a little bit about my background. I lived on the street like for a while. Like I came from a poor background. And I just say, whatever that is for people, state of the spark, whatever that is for people, I want to facilitate now. I want to now listen to your idea offline, Jay, and go, damn, what can I do to help that? We just started helping this guy build a Discord bot. Jarrett knows a little bit about this investment I'm in right now, to invest in this guy's Discord bot, not because he cares about Discord bots, but he told me about his vision of what he actually wants to do. And so I'm like, let's find the money for this guy and let's make this happen. So I love that, Jay, that you're on that journey now. And you still have a normal Web 2 job too, right? You still work at JOB. Yeah. And Jared does too. And I've been blessed to not, but my Spark website, my website company keeps me locked in like 50 hours a week. So I'm my own worst boss. I'm a horrible boss. Well, boys, we've been going an hour.
You see, you had the inflection. You had the inflection.
Boys.
You almost had it. It wasn't boys. It was boys.
Boys. We're in it. Should we call it our first official stream?
I think we call it. If you're Jay, if you're cool with it, I think we're well, good.
Let's rehearse this for the public that may or may not, probably not watching. Where can people follow you other than at Podmaster JJ? Is that the main place?
That's the main, what do you call it? Handle.
Okay, so that's the main place for people to follow what you're doing.
Instagram, Twitter, and then of course if you're on LinkedIn, it's Jay Harris.
Okay, Jarrett, where can people follow you? What do you want them to check out?
Yeah, you can hit me on Twitter or LinkedIn, and my name's kind of complicated, and everyone spells it wrong. Literally, we're only at 3 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Eastern, and 5 people spelled it wrong today. So my name is Jarrett and Carpenter, and just put that into Google, and I'll pop up.
Yeah, man. And for those watching or may not be watching, I'm Grant Sparks. Find me anywhere. Appreciate you guys. I'm going to end this stream. Let's do this. Stick around, boys.